Thank you, PCS. Senator Sifuna.
Just for my benefit, Waziri, you have explained, but you'll also tell us what this TD do in terms of what they are. Now, Waziri, when I read Article 10 of the Constitution, it requires certain things whenever you make public policy decisions. I want to know from your understanding of public policy decisions, is the gazettement of a police station and the award or transfer of land that is public land to any other entity, public policy position that would require Article 10 to kick in, because the community in Upperhill, the business community in Upperhill, came to my office and said there was absolutely no involvement in the community in that decision. Secondly, Waziri, if you can tell us the terms and conditions of that transfer, the terms or the conditions for use of that particular piece of land, what are they look like? What do they look like? Is it just a proper transfer where 2 years down the line the person who you have allocated that land can decide to sell off that 2 acres? So that we know, because I've seen conditions in other grants or transfers where you retain the public purpose of or the nature of the land. Also address us on the question of the value, because you have presented it as an exchange between St. John's and Parliament. What is the size of the plot that I see out there that St. John sits on? And how do you compare it to the value of 1 acre of land in Upperhill? I think we all know what the value of land in Upperhill is. Finally, on the financial sector regulators, could you be clear on who in whose name the title will be? Because you've mentioned various organizations there, financial sector regulators. Who is going to be the one holding the title for that piece of land that have been allocated to the financial sector regulators? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Senator Abdul, any intervention?
Thank you, Chair. Prime Cabinet Secretary, I think I was following your submission, and you did mention that the African Trade and Investment Development Insurance is a body that Kenya has shares in, as well as the African Development Bank. I presume also Kenya has shares. In all these entities that are going to have equities in the land that we are providing, does it mean that Kenya's shares in these institutions are also rising because we are providing the land? I don't know what the arrangement is. I just want an understanding.
Thank you, Senator Kabo.
Thank you very much, Chair. I just wanted to know from the Prime Cabinet Secretary, now that there has been a lot of hue and cry around that area because the police station is now going to be relocated, or there is no police station as at now, whether the public participation was necessary so that at least you can be able to acquaint the members of the public on what is going on.
Thank you, PCS.
Thank you. First of all, let me just say the issue of insurance, a TD, which is a Pan-African body, is like MIGA of the World Bank. All right? It's a similar framework. MIGA is the agency that if you are investors and you're growing private sector and so forth, whether you are borrowing from IFC or even when World Bank is covering some of the water projects here, who are their insurance background? It's usually MIGA. So a TD is a similar entity, but belonging to the African Union. I hope that helps in clarifying that position. All right. And Kenya, being a key shareholder, makes a lot of sense that if we are among the founding and the key shareholders, us providing the headquarters has got its advantages. Some will be job creation. Some will be the flow of resources that will come out of this. And I'll give another example. Kenya is a shareholder of Shelter Africa. Perhaps we are now the largest shareholder. Until recently, I think Nigeria has overtaken us. But the headquarters of Shelter Africa is here. Now, if you go into the portfolio of Shelter Africa, you'll find that the largest beneficiary of the resources of Shelter Africa has been Kenya and housing and development programs in Kenya compared to other countries. So when you have a TD here, based here, it is an advantage that will accrue to investments here and also to the people in the region. So I see that that is in order. Secondly, I believe the legal framework that Honorable Sifuna is raising also makes sense. By virtue of it being a public entity, there must be safeguards in ensuring that there cannot be a unilateral transfer of the asset. And since the government of Kenya is a shareholder, that is a very important thing to be built into the host country agreement that comes with institutions that are based here. So I believe that would be covered. Now, I may then touch on the second one on the financial regulators. This can still continue being held by the Treasury as a trustee of all the financial regulators. But if I recall, somewhere in the pipeline, there is either a bill that is supposed to reach here or has about to reach, where eventually all the financial regulators are going to be consolidated into one financial regulator. The name that Parliament will give this institution, I may not be able to know at this stage. But I believe that in part of the financial sector reforms, there is a policy position that is coming or that is already before you, that eventually there'll be one financial regulator instead of multiple. Okay? So that, I believe, will cover the second aspect. The third aspect is the St. John. Basically, what has happened in the context of St. John is compulsory acquisition. So when you do compulsory acquisition, you would normally take the value of the asset, the market value of the asset, and then add a 15% markup for disturbance and for the disruption you have caused to the entity. All right? So, loosely, perhaps the value of land in Upperhill today could be up to 500, 600 million Kenya shillings per acre. I'm thinking aloud. You have to also now look at it in the context. What would be the value of the asset that was here? And then you have to add the element of the compensatory requirement legally to St. John's. And that may give some reasonable justification for the land that has been exchanged and given to the St. John. I don't know whether I've covered the issues.
You know, Chair, the only problem is that you are speaking in very abstract terms, Waziri, because this is a process that has already been concluded. My expectation would be you would be telling us what the actuals are. I expect that there was a valuation for St. John's before it was acquired by Parliament. You should have that figure and tell us what's the value of that property, and that was a consideration for us giving them an acre of land in Upperhill. The second question about the terms of the transfer, that is something that should already have been done, in my view, because the process is almost at a conclusion stage. So you should be confirming to us whether, in fact, those terms of subsequent transfer are included or not. But you are speaking in very abstract terms, was it? Like you don't know what the actual situation was.
Madam Chair, I don't think we are worried about that. As far as I'm concerned, this is a public transfer, and I would be very happy at a subsequent stage to to forward to this parliament even a more detailed documentation on aspects of the issues that have gone through to facilitate this transaction. So it is not a question of saying that we want to conceal anything. This is public. Okay? And when a government wants to allocate land, and it can allocate if it is for public good, it may not necessarily be under consideration, because it is not a sale. This is not a sale. It's already government land. The treasury is the trustee. So it is a reorganization on the usage of that land. It's not a sale transaction.
Chair, lastly, there was a question that has not been addressed in terms of the involvement of the community.
In fact, I need help through Parliament, because one of the things that we have put across is that we actually need Parliament to help us conclude the law around public participation. Why do I bring this up? I bring this up because we have estimated through legislation alone, through the government legislative agenda, that if we were to pursue the government legislative agenda and go through all the stages that you ever imagine in just a one term of Parliament, it could cost Kenyans, the taxpayer, up to 20 billion Kenya shillings in the process of public participation, based on the estimates and the costings that have come from various departments. So before Parliament is sitting a law that will vest the whole issue of public participation squarely with Parliament, so that we don't have these multiple centers all purporting to say they are doing public participation. Others should do consultations or stakeholder consultations, but Parliament should be vested with the ultimate public participation objective. This is our objective. Now, this is a reorganization of the use of land in Upperhill. We could, yes, interpret that one wants public participation. But if I were to ask that really, would this really call for that kind of detailed concern? That a TD, a financial institution, is coming to join its sisters in the same locality. The financial regulation services is being consolidated from the government so that it becomes one-stop shop, instead of the taxpayer paying money through rentals with all these institutions scattered all over. So I fully understand where the legal argument is coming from, but I also want to say that on this one, to be honest, there's no loss.
Are you done? I think PCS, there's a bit of clarity that is required. Of course, you have explained the importance of these institutions to come together. But what specifically Senator Sifuna is asking is whether public participation was done. And I think this is something you can say yes or no. And secondly, there were people who are getting service delivery from the same institution. Now that that has been moved to Kilimani or other areas, it's good for the public to know. Secondly, on the matter of the RTD, we've heard about St. John's ambulance. It's land for land. But the one for RTD, is it only because they are coming to join the sister institution, or there was a certain consideration because I believe even if you want to exchange something, you must know the value of what you are exchanging. And that is the bit I believe Senator Sifuna is asking. You can say, of course, it's about 500 million. The other land is 1 billion. And we thought, even by getting service delivery and employment for our people, this is the reason why we did A, B, C, D. So, unless maybe Senator Sifuna wants to add that, but I thought that is also equally important just for the consumption of the public so that government is not accused tomorrow that they have thrown our land to certain institutions, even if they are sister institutions. Thank you.
Chair, I think you've captured the concerns accurately. You know, Waziri, part of the problems I have with this government is just how you communicate. The business community in Upperhill are fairly reasonable people. Instead of them waking up to this specter where the OCS is telling them, oh, we have been told to close this place down, it has been allocated to somebody else. That's how information comes to us as elected representatives. And it shouldn't be like that. It should come from you. It is the same problem we had with the airport. For all the benefits the country was going to get, for instance, if we developed our airport. I don't just understand why you can't lead with the information, that you wait for us to see something on social media that the Upperhill police station has been grabbed. Then we have to work backwards to get to this point where now we're having this conversation with you in Parliament. I think even a notice in the newspaper would have sufficed for the business community in Upperhill. They would at least know that there is official communication. We have struggled, Waziri, to just find any official communication other than the gazette notices that were put to justify this particular transfer. And from where you sit in that explanation you have given, it actually makes sense. Why can't it be that you as a government lead with the information and you don't wait for the business community to call their elected representatives saying, oh, Capitol Hill police station has been grabbed, people don't know where to go for their fines, the vehicles that are in the police station, the police officers themselves are saying they have been thrown around the police stations in Nairobi. I mean, Waziri, to be fair, just providing information like this conversation we're having, imagine if it happened before the business people called me, we wouldn't be here. That is the whole point. And that community involvement is what we are looking for going forward.
Thank you, Senator Abdul.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I was following keenly to the way forward that the Cabinet Secretary